All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Running a little behind due to technology concerns here. So, thank you guys for coming. So, I want to start out with this. So, stress gets a bad rap, right? In general. Hey, come on in. So, when we hear stress, what's our first kind of thought about? I'm stressed. What do we think of? Pressure. What else is associated with too much stress?
Getting anxious.
Anxious, anxiety, pressure. What else? What on our bodies? Sleeplessness, insomnia, right? Anger, and then health effects too, right? Sometimes we think about it, increases our blood pressure, whatever it is, too much stress. What I'm hoping to do today is really change your mind about stress and recognize that there is good stress, right? It's called eustress. We're going to get into that. But when to recognize when eustress starts to turn into distress. And then ways that we can manage those times when it starts to become overwhelming, so that we can kind of change that viewpoint of what stress is. Right? So, all right, feedback. So the stress response, right? So the body has, a broad array of stress responses. Ever heard this? There's two parts of our system, right? Sympathetic and parasympathetic, right? This is how I remember them. If you, open up a parachute, right? And you think about it, it's nice and easy down the ground. So parachute, parasympathetic, that's the easy part. That's the part of our nervous system that's relaxing. Right? When you think parasympathetic, parachute. And then the other side is the sympathetic. That's what increases our heart rate, kind of gets us ready to face a challenge or fight or flight. Right? So we're going to get into talk a little bit about that as well. Stress in general is a life-saver. We need that. So if we're faced with a threat, so back a long time ago, right, we were getting chased by bears and tigers and all that, right? We needed to have that stress response because it kept us alive, right? Well, what did it help us do? What's that mechanism we talked about? It kicks in. Fight or flight. So it kept us survival. So we were either going to stay and fight this thing, or we're going to get the heck out of Dodge, right? So what happens to our brain? Is this. The blood shunts to the middle part of our brain, right? It all goes to the middle part of our brain, which is called the limbic system. That's the primitive part of our brain. That's the animal part of our brain. Our brain, as it develops from bottom to top, okay? So the front part, where you see the medial PFC, that stands for prefrontal cortex, all that is saying that that's the part of our brain that helps us think things through, right? It's that rational thought, things are going to be okay, but when we're in a threat, the only part of the brain that's really activated is that mid. So we have to send messages from the mid part of our brain back to the front part saying, hey, this isn't a threat, everything's okay, it's going to be cool, right? And we're doing that constantly, we're constantly assessing. But what are our threats today? They're not tigers and bears, right? No. What are our threats today? What stresses us out today?
Job stability.
Job stability? Yep. Because that's survival. Because if we don't have job stability, we don't have income, I'm going to pay my mortgage, we're my family, right? So we start kind of going down the survival track. What else?
Relationships.
Yeah, relationships is a big one. Threatening, kind of
Teenage kids.
yeah.
Family scheduling.
Yeah. So a lot of different, responsibilities, right? We have to. So all this starts to kind of initiate our fight or flight, that limbic system, and the part of our brain is active. Okay. So these are some of the signs and symptoms, right, of, sensitization, right? You have a hypervigilance, an exaggerated startle response, difficulty sleeping, you might feel irritable, might feel more impulsive, angry, intrusive memories. If there's a trauma associated with the threat, you might have that re-experiencing of the trauma. So this is the sensitization. This is where if you are getting too much stress and it's overwhelming, these are some of the things you might start to see. Okay?
So what would hypervigilance be like?
Think of it as a startle response, like you're constantly on, like looking over your shoulder, like what's
like
the next threat?
Kind
Yeah,
of thing.
like what's the next threat? Waiting for that next boot to drop, right? And that's kind of what hypervigilance is. And in post-traumatic stress disorder, hypervigilance is really an enhanced kind of startle response. Like you hear a backfire of vehicle, and it's like, where'd that shock? So you're on edge. Okay. Consequences of stress. So when stress is uncontrollable and overwhelming and chronic, it can be destructive, right? It can cause an exacerbate, which leads to what we see behaviorally, see burnout, right? You see post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's past just adjustment, general adjustment of trauma, and now it's continually chronic, which, is the post-traumatic stress disorder. And then the physical health, right? Cardiac disorder, heart disease, high blood pressure. But when stress is manageable, it's actually positive and leads us to growth and enhancement. Whoever here has heard of post-traumatic growth? Heard that term? No? So PTSD or PTS, post-traumatic stress, kind of is, that's the one getting all the buzz, right? That's kind of what's out there. But there is something called post-traumatic growth. And there's a whole field of study right now. More money is being put into the idea that traumatic response or a traumatic event actually leads to growth, in that it rises us to a challenge, it allows us to grow from it, it helps us mature, right, in certain ways and see things differently. Like, hey, I survived that. Life is new now, So there's not always a negative, a negative fallout from the trauma. There's actually something.
Isn't that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger?
In some ways,
or a family goes through a tragedy and it brings them closer together.
Very much so. And in fact, it all depends too on what your pre-trauma history was. If you grew up in a home that was, stable, comfortable, there wasn't a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma prior to, you can face that trauma with, hey, the world in general I know is a safe place. It's okay. This bad thing happened. You can reframe it, compartmentalize it, and recognize I can grow from this, right? You start to see folks that may have post-traumatic stress disorder. You start looking at pre-military history or pre-history trauma. You start to see there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of, and just over time, the chronic nature of traumas over and over leads to post-traumatic stress disorder. That's not a surefire thing, but it definitely plays into the equation. Okay, so this is a big buzzword right in the Air Force is resilience, right? The process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or even significant sources of stress. Right? That bounce back. Right? How are we handling this? We come back from this. So this right here is a picture of Michelangelo, and he was on loan to the United States for us for a little while, right? After a 2-year loan, he came back looking like this, right? So, in terms of stress adaptability, right, probably not the best way to adapt to stress, right? Some folks, what are some ways we adapt to stress? How do we cope with stress negatively? How did he cope with stress? Probably.
It's the overeating example.
Overeating, right? You're not exercising, unmotivated, feeling overwhelmed, just you kind of your give a meter just tanks, right? So, the idea is then, how can we challenge some of these mindsets to cope resiliently? And we know this, right? Comprehensive area of fitness, right? We've heard this. What are some of the pillars of health, right, that we talk about? Social health, spiritual health, physical, mental, right? So that whole person concept, right? So we know all this stuff. So it's multidimensional, again, academic, physical, social, emotional, and personal. Ma'am, to your point about relationships, that's a huge one. The single most protective factor, talk about risk factors, like what can lead to somebody having suicidal ideation versus somebody that's protective of that. The single most protective factor against suicide is social connection. So interpersonal resilience, being able to feel like you're not thwarted, part of the community. And sometimes you see that with some suicide attempts where they just did not feel connected with people. It was just too much, they just didn't feel connected. So that's a very important one. And get into, things that mediate these factors. Like, resilience just doesn't happen in the vacuum. There's genetic components, right? Some of us just have different hardware. Some of our brains all of our brains are different, right? So how do we use serotonin? How do we use, adrenaline? How do we use these different hormones or coursing through our bodies during stressful a stressful environment? How do we manage stress? What's our neurobiology? And again, psychosocial support is huge. Did we grow up in a tight-knit family? Grow up in a family that, was kind of dispersed, really didn't stay in contact? That how we grow up, right? What we learn as we start to grow up, that's our model, right? That's our model. We can relearn things, right? But at the same time, modeling behavior and what we learn through this is very okay. So what I'm going to do is, we talked about stress, right? What stress is. We talked about what are some of the mediating factors. What I want to do now is try to give you guys applicable skills on how to actually, use and run into stress when you're faced with stressful situations. How to better cope and manage. Because stress, again, so these are the topics we're going to talk about today. Although I'm probably not going to spend a whole lot of time on regulating emotions or my touching cognitive disability. We'll go through because we're running through. Okay, resilient role models. Okay, learning through observation. We talked about that. How do you show your kids how to tie your shoes? I got kids in here. You got some kids, right? Playing soccer now, a little bit older than my guys. I'm teaching them how to tie their shoes right. Right? That modeling behavior. That's a very powerful tool, right? But we think as we're teaching kids, we still are learning. We model people. We have role models, right? I know I have a couple. I had professor in grad school. It's like, yeah, I want to be that guy, right? How do you model what he does? So even though we're not kids, we're still learning. My recommendation is trying to find that role model that you have. Is there a mentoring program in here? And it's all that type of mentoring. I know the 174th they have a mentor program. Anything like that here?
Used to, but not anymore.
Yeah, I think that is so important to have, some mentor, to have somebody that you can say, yeah, how can I model what they do? So again, study the resilient role model. Find somebody who's resilient, analyze their behaviors, values, what they do, and do that. Okay, this is a big one for me too. Active coping versus passive coping. When we think of fight or flight, right? We talked about fight or flight. Which one of those would fall under what category? So active coping, would that be a bit more with fight or flight?
Do fighting.
Right. Passive would be obviously then flight, right? Running away from it. These are true blue coping styles. You have some folks, right, that are turtles, and you have some folks that are thunderstorms, right? They will stay and they will fight and they will go, and if this fighter is gonna, I'm gonna isolate, I'm gonna curl into my turtle shell.
What about the third F though, right?
Freeze.
Yeah, fright. Right.
Yeah.
That's definitely passive avoidance, I would think.
Yeah, that
Once you
would
run
fall.
away, you made a conscious decision to do something.
Yeah.
Avoidance, yes. Passive.
Yeah. So you're right. That would fall definitely more around the passive side of the house. But I would challenge you that the fight is more helpful and healthy way to manage.
Not necessarily to your career.
What's that?
So not necessarily to your career. You know that.
There's ways to go about it. So I'll show you how it can be okay actually for your career if you actively gather information, right? You can gather information, acquire the skill sets that you need. Respectful confrontation, right? And asking clarification questions. Help me figure this out. Now that's actively running into whatever challenge that you're facing. Problem solving, again, seeking social support. We're going to watch a TED Talk on the importance of social effectiveness as it relates to resiliency and stress. There's some really cool stuff on science behind that. And a cognitive reappraisal, I also call that a cognitive reframe. Just looking at things maybe a little bit differently, but you can't do that if you're open. If you're passively avoiding, you can't do that. So passive looks like denying the problem, waiting for things to settle out, or work itself out, right? They'll just sit back. I mean, sometimes it's okay to wait on an email for a few days, right? You get the email back, taken care of, right? So, but in general, passively avoiding or withdrawing, and then when you do hyperventilate, not in a constructive way, but more blatantly negative way, that still kind of falls in that passive category. Versus how can we create change? You know, what do we need to do to create change? And I would always encourage you to lean towards the active coaching style versus the passive style. Any questions on that at all? I don't want to quit. So if there's any questions, well, do you think that's stressful? That cat looks like it could be paralyzed. Right? Who feels like that some days? I know I do. Especially when NGV's trying to go. Right?
The cat? The way the cat looks or the way the cat should feel?
Yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah. I really look like that. I'm more like, "Wah!" But there are days where I'm kind of like, you know what? It is what it is. I got Joe Pinterest kind of staring down my neck. But at the end of the day, that could be great to go to a potential stressful situation. But facing our fear, right? What's that in terms of behavioral outcomes? You know, it's, again, acquire information about what is feared, learn the skills necessary to move through the fear, have a plan, backup plan, A1, you know, 2, whatever else that you need to do. Confront fear with trusted colleagues. I never make a decision that I am troubling with unless I call 3 other DPHs. I mean, this is just for me, and I know what you guys do is a little bit different than what I do. But if you have colleagues in the field to bounce things off of, to me, that's super helpful. I will make 3 calls at a minute to other DPHs. I do this right. And again, social support. This is kind of a gee whiz. There are higher rates in post-traumatic stress disorder for Vietnam veterans. Life expectancy may be strongly associated with poor social support. Why do you think that there are higher rates of post-traumatic stress disorder Vietnam veterans versus, say, veterans of this era?
They had less
Because
support.
the American people treat like
You got it. You got it. It was that social support that you're not, you know, you didn't, you know, you weren't good enough. They're getting spit on, right? I mean, my God. So not only that, they're trying to reframe all these traumatic events that they experienced and not feel connected. That's why the higher rates of PTSD. And again, life expectancy was significantly lower due to that poor social support. And it actually, they compared it to cigarette smoke, attention, and obesity, and it was like, it was that strong associated. So, on the other hand, high social support, right, have reduced physiological reactivity to stress. There's more effective coping strategies. Again, actively coping, increase self-esteem and self-efficacy. I got this. I can handle this. I can do this. That ability to kind of pull through. And it actually is a protective factor against overall. Question? Did you have a question? No? Okay. So cognitive flexibility and post-traumatic growth. It's the ability to cognitively reframe, right, or find positive meaning that burst through adversity. So redefining the crisis as a challenge. Every crisis brings opportunity, right? It's how we view that crisis, how we look at crisis. That self-efficacy, I got this, I can handle that. If that voice is starting to get lower and lower, then we can kind of enhance that internal strength. Yeah, this is that touching again on post-traumatic growth. Get a greater appreciation of life, enhance wisdom, maturity, shift in values. You know, it's funny. You see a young, wire-eyed, you know, wide-eyed, 18, 19-year-old, right, doing the art, and they go off and they come back. There's a mature that is not wise, that old soul, right, of a 19-year-old that doesn't come back with post-traumatic stress disorder, that face challenges, but it looks at life now differently. I saw that a lot with veterans when I'm in the VA. Said they just did their one hitch. They're 22, 23. They're getting out. They didn't have some college, and they're, you know, I don't have PTSD and it's getting out. I'm just going all the time out. There's just in general a bit of resiliency. Again, that goes back. Okay, so training. When we hear training, to me, I think of Air Force training. It's mandatory, CTs or whatever, but I want us to think trained in a different way. Who has ever heard the word of neuroplasticity? So what that means is this: our brains can change, and it changes through experience. Here is ever playing instrument. What are you playing?
Oh, used to play the trombone.
Okay, what are you playing?
Me too, the Trump.
Trombone. Okay. The first time you picked the trombone up, and the first time you played, what was that like? Did it sound like you're stepping on a squirrel or something?
Pretty much, yeah.
It's the clarinet.
Yeah, right. So think of brain malleability and neuroplasticity as learning a new experience. When we first pick up a new instrument, that's the first time I picked up a guitar was 10 years ago. My fingers trying to switch chords, like there's no way I can switch from G to C. It just can't happen. But over time, develop that muscle memory. It says, okay, well, this is what it's like, and then to develop that habit. Sorry. That's
What are you looking for, Joe? Tail?
Fitz is me.
Yeah, other side.
And so for me, it was just like that struggle, but over, the first year or two, I'm like, okay, I can start switching. So that's basically the same idea of what's happening in our brain when we face challenges is our brains change through experience. The more experiences we allow ourselves to engage in, and the more we do what we don't feel like doing until we feel like doing, right? And we can change our brain. We can change that the way our brains work. So again, the more the skill is rehearsed, the more space and wiring goes. So think of this: neurons that fire together. You make fire. So if you challenge yourself to handle a situation in a certain way, right, you are then rewiring your brain to do that next time. And I'm going to give you some tools and tips I think that help to do that as well. There's stress inoculation. But this was a really cheesy meditation slide. Sorry, guys, but we talked about mindfulness. That's kind of been thrown around here quite a bit, right? What is mindfulness? We talked, I think, during due plans. We talked about Heroes at Commanders Club. Colonel Norton and I think the shirt talked about. Do you remember that? Oh, okay. What is it? Can you give me a quick Reader's Digest version of what mindfulness is to you? What that means?
I don't know if I can express it that way, but kind of like being in your mind's focused on that, whatever's going on.
Yes, right now, your mind, you're training your brain. You're actually training your brain. Talk about training neuroplasticity. Mindfulness is probably the best thing you can do to rewire your brain. And it's basically being here now, right? So when we're stressed, right, when that fight or flight is kicked in, and we're feeling anxious or we're feeling nervous or scared, whatever it is, the one place we are not, or at least our minds aren't, is here. We're anticipating, or we have that, they call it anticipatory anxiety. What's going to happen? Or we're thinking about what we didn't do in the past, right? So if we're worrying about the future, we're not here, not present. So what mindfulness allows us to do is be here now. And there's one tool, there's one thing we're always doing that we can use as an anchor, as a tool. What's that? What's the one thing we're always doing? What are we always doing? Or we're not here? Yeah. Right. We're always breathing. We always have our breath. And if we can focus and bring our attention to that breath, that's the vehicle. It's like a vehicle. It's like, oh, got the vehicle. Let's bring it. So we're that conscious awareness. I have something called the theory of fours. So if you just count 1, 2, 3, 4 on an inhale, hold 1, 2, 3, 4 on an exhale. Just count 5. That will engage your prefrontal cortex, that front part of your brain that helps you think things through. And it's rewiring your brain in the experience of adversity, in the threat, in the moment, when you're feeling stressed. That's the best time to do the training to allow for that neurocircuitry to develop itself. so how rapidly someone recovers from stress is associated with resilience. The stress can be either psychological, physical, importance of structured or rigorous attention recovery. Again, that's just that mindfulness piece, coming back, seeing attention. And then finding meaning and purpose, and I put a few quotes in there. Men are strong as long as they stand for an idea, and he has a why. Can hear what drives us? So, what pillar do you think this would fall under?
Spiritual.
Spiritual, yeah, I think so. You know, it's that purpose, that larger picture. Why are we here? What are we doing? What is this? You can develop, everyone's why is going to be different. You can develop a why you. You will be able to handle stress much more fluidly than you would if you have a why. Who can speak to this? Does this ring home for anyone? What do you think? How important is purpose to you? Do you feel you have?
Yeah, so for me, family is kind of my why.
Yeah.
That helps me get through the day and the stresses of the day. Yeah, I can focus on that part of my life. Other things are good.
Yeah. So I think too, right? A lot of the stuff that we in our minds create these plots. We go down these rabbit holes, right? That we create storylines that may or may not happen, most likely, and we expend a ton of psychic energy. And I think about some of the stuff that I did this for myself the other day. I pulled it up in email history from like a year and a half ago, and I looked at something that I can remember, like, well, I was really wrapped around the axle about this thing. And it's like not even out there. It's like not even, it's a non-issue. Nothing came to fruition. So I'm thinking to myself, I worried a ton about this. And it was it. So I think about stuff worrying about today. We can look back and another two years and what the heck was I about? And, whoever's ever heard this stuff, don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. Right. So, guy picked a couple.
Isn't the saying you need to have at least one big stuff?
Yeah, for you, for your why, but not let the intricacies in between get in the way of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta have why. You gotta. So again, imitate is just kind of a review. Imitate resilient role models, cultivate those positive emotions, foster actively cope, train in one of those areas. So mindfulness meditation. There's apps out there called Department of Defense. Some great apps. One's called Breathe to Relax. Another tactical. Got the word tactical on it. Your operators will be hard fun doing it. Right. Doing a mindfulness app. That stuff.
It makes me feel so so dumb. Because you throw a tactical in front of it, I'm going to follow it.
Yeah. No, well, it's funny when you're talking to operators, they usually do it like in the operator world. They'll try to make it. So
Yeah, I get it.
yeah. So, what I wanted to just basically show you is a TED Talk about social connectedness as it relates to resiliency and strengths. So, she's going to do a much better job than I of helping to explain.
Do you know, do these speakers also?
So, we're going to test. Is EAD's going to hear this whole TED Talk?
I'm only concerned because these rooms are connected. I'm wondering if the speakers are going to.
So they've had a problem in the past. I don't know how they've got every.
See, I don't think they do. Go and listen and see.
Let me just put your ear up against that.
Good to hit play. I'll make sure it's not interrupting.
I'll give you a second. Okay.
Yeah, you can't remember. Were there 6 put in?
These speakers were
So they didn't do the ones like next door. They put notes in. These aren't.
they're not
Just tied
I
into the
have a
page. Should be separate.
I did. It's not.
Stressed. Strong.
Yeah.
Midst of the defense had for Black History. So it's a their luncheon or event that they had, and they had the same issue with AT thing. They're like, oh, it's not her.
Yeah. It's like,
I have a
I'm reading that right. So that light gray hair down.
like
That's
you.
the only parts downloaded so far, right?
little confession to me. In the past year,
Yeah, the reds would start.
Good.
I didn't hear anything. So.
it was pretty mild.
Was it okay? Yeah. So I didn't hear anything. Yeah, just didn't want to make sure we weren't interrupting the other meeting.
I'll turn this light off so they can see. You see that? All right.
I have a but first, I want you to make a little confession to me.
Can you get it up?
In the past year, would you just raise your hand if you've experienced relatively little stress? How about a moderate amount of stress? Who's experienced a lot of stress? Yeah, me too. But that is not my confession. My confession is this. I am a health psychologist, and my mission is to help people be happier and healthier. But I fear that something I've been teaching for the last 10 years is doing more harm than good, and it has to do with stress. For years, I've been telling people stress makes you sick. It increases the risk of everything from common cold, cardiovascular disease. Basically, I've turned stress into the enemy. But I've changed my mind about stress. And today, I want to change yours. Let me start with a study that made me rethink my whole approach to stress. This study tracked 30,000 adults in the United States for 8 years. And they started by asking people how much stress you experienced in the last year. They also asked, do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to find out who died. Okay, some bad news first. People who experienced a lot of stress in the previous year had a 43% increased risk of dying. But that was only true for the people who also believed stress is harmful for your health. People who experienced a lot of stress but did not view stress as harmful were no more likely to die. In fact, they had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including people who had relatively little stress. Now, the researchers estimated that over the 8 years they were tracking deaths, 182,000 Americans died prematurely, not from stress, but from the belief that stress is bad for you. That is over 20,000 deaths a year. Now, if that estimate is correct, that would make believing stress is bad for you the 15th largest cause of death in the United States last year, killing more people than skin cancer, HIV, AIDS, and homicide. you can see why the study freaked me out. Here I've been spending so much energy telling people stress is bad. So this study got me wondering, can changing how you think about stress make you healthier? And here the science says yes. When you change your mind about stress, you can change your body's response to stress. Now, to explain how this works, I want you all to pretend that you are participants in a study designed to stress you out. It's called the social stress test. You come into the laboratory and you're told you have to give a 5-minute impromptu speech on your personal weaknesses to a panel of expert evaluators sitting right in front of you. And to make sure you feel the pressure, there are bright lights and a camera in your face, kind of like this. And the evaluators have been trained to give you discouraging nonverbal feedback, like this. Now, if you're sufficiently demoralized, time for part 2, a math test. And, unbeknownst to you, the experimenter has been trained to harass you during it. Now, we're going to all do this together. It's going to be fun. For me. Okay. I want you all to count backwards from 996 in increments of 7. You do this out loud as fast as you can, starting with 996. Go. Go faster. Faster, please. You're going too slow. Stop, 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 stop. That guy made a mistake. You're going to have to start all over again. You're not very good at this, are you? Okay, so you get the idea. Now, if you were actually in this study, you'd probably be a little stressed out. Your heart might be pounding, you might be breathing faster, maybe breaking out into a sweat. And normally we interpret physical changes as anxiety or signs that we aren't coping very well with the pressure. But what if you viewed them instead as signs that your body was energized, was preparing you to meet this challenge? Now that is exactly what participants in a study conducted at Harvard University. Before they went to the social stress test, they were taught to rethink their stress response as helpful. That pounding heart is preparing for action. If you're breathing faster, it's no problem. It's getting more oxygen to your brain. And participants who learned to view the stress response as helpful for their performance, they were less stressed out, less anxious, more confident. But the most fascinating finding to me is how their physical stress response changed. And the typical stress response, your heart rate goes up and your blood vessels constrict like this. This is one of the reasons that chronic stress is sometimes associated with cardiovascular disease. It's not really healthy to be in this state all the time. But in the study, when participants viewed their stress response as healthy, their blood vessels stayed relaxed like this. Their heart was still pounding, but this is a much healthier cardiovascular profile. It actually looks a lot like what happens in moments of joy and courage. Over a lifetime of stressful experiences, this one biological change could be the difference between a stress-induced heart attack at age 50 and living well into your 90s. And this is really what the new science of stress reveals, that how you think about stress matters. So my goal as a health psychologist has changed. I no longer want to get rid of your stress. I want to make you better at stress. And we just did a little intervention. If you raised your hand and said, "I had a lot of stress last year," you could have saved your life. Because hopefully the next time your heart is pounding from stress, you're going to remember this and you're going to think to yourself, this is my body helping me rise to this challenge. And when you view stress in that way, your body leaves you and your stress response becomes healthy. Now, I said I have over a decade of demonizing stress to redeem myself from. So we are going to do one more intervention. I want to tell you about one of the most underappreciated aspects of the stress response. And the idea is this: stress makes you social. To understand the side of stress, we need to talk about a hormone, oxytocin. And I know oxytocin has already gotten as much hype as a hormone can get, It even has its own cute nickname, the cuddle hormone, because it's released when you hug someone. But this is a very small part of what oxytocin is involved in. Oxytocin is a neurohormone. It fine-tunes your brain's social instincts. It primes you to do things that strengthen close relationships. Oxytocin makes you crave physical contact with friends and family. It enhances your empathy. It even makes you more willing to help and support the people you care about. Some people even suggested you should snort oxytocin. Become more compassionate and caring. But here's what most people don't understand about oxytocin. It's a stress hormone. Your pituitary gland pumps this stuff out as a part of the stress response. It's as much a part of your stress response as the adrenaline that makes your heart happy. When oxytocin is released in the stress response, it is motivating you to seek support. Your biological stress response is nudging you to tell someone how you feel instead of bottling it up. Your stress response wants to make sure you notice when someone else in your life is struggling so that you can support each other. When life is difficult, your stress response wants you to be surrounded by people who care. Okay, so how is knowing this side of stress going to make you healthy? Well, oxytocin doesn't only act on your brain, it also acts on your body. And one of its main roles in your body is to protect the cardiovascular system from the effects of stress. It's a natural anti-inflammatory. It also helps your blood vessels stay relaxed during stress. But my favorite effect on the body is actually on the heart. Your heart is receptive for this hormone. And oxytocin helps heart cells regenerate and heal from any stress-induced damage. This stress hormone
For the exercise track, Echo 7324 suspect action taken, IDEON for the exercise.
Enhanced by social contact and social support. So when you reach out to others under stress, either to seek support or to help someone else, you release more of this hormone, your stress response becomes healthier, and you actually recover faster from stress. I find this amazing that your stress response has a built-in mechanism for stress resilience. And that mechanism is human connection. I want to finish by telling you about one more study. Listen up, this study could also save life. This study tracked about 1,000 adults in the United States, and they ranged in age from 34 to 93. They started the study by asking how much stress you experienced in the last year. They also asked, how much time have you spent helping out friends, neighbors, people in your community? And then they used public records for the next 5 years to find out. Okay, so bad news first. For every major stressful life experience, like financial difficulties or family crisis, that increased the risk of dying by 3%. But, and I hope you are expecting a but that wasn't true for everyone. People who spent time caring for others showed absolutely no stress-related increase in dying, 0. Caring created resilience. And so we see once again that harmful effects of stress on your health are not inevitable. How you think and how you act transform your experience of stress. When you choose to view your stress response as helpful, you create biology of courage. And when you choose to connect with others under stress, you can create resilience. Now, I wouldn't necessarily ask for more stressful experiences in my life, but this science is giving a whole new appreciation for stress. Stress gives us access to our heart. A compassionate heart that finds joy and meaning in connecting with others. And yes, your pounding physical heart working so hard to give you strength and joy. to view stress in this way, you're not just getting better at stress, you're actually making a pretty profound statement. You're saying that you can trust yourself to handle life's challenges. And you're remembering that you don't have to face them alone.
What do you guys think?
Interesting.
Interesting, huh? I mean, real reframe on the science of stress. So there's the viewpoint. I hope she did it for this. To me, she changed my point of stress anyway. But from the presentation, just to kind of, use some of those tools, those the role model, train, active coping, passive coping, things to put in your toolbox to help with this reframe out of stress. If once each Tuesday comes up, then great. I just thought that was a really tech talk. See stress, and I didn't know as much about the oxytocin stuff until I saw this and started thinking. So I did hear the cuddle. I didn't know it was oxytocin. So. You think worthwhile showing that video in a day?
I think so.
Mhm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's pretty much all I have. If you have questions, just open up for discussion, feedback. What you guys think I should pick out? What's useful? What's not?
So I see this one, there's clearly notes that, are there notes on slides?
You mean down below? Yeah,
Right.
each one has some are from, the sources themselves. Some don't. Some do.
Some don't necessarily. Some of the slides, I think there's value in there. The reason why I was asking is because maybe you already do and I just don't know, but do we have somewhere on our SharePoint, like when you come and you do some of these briefings, a mindfulness briefing I wasn't around for, do we have like either a DPH spot on our SharePoint or the shirt app?
I've been given my stuff either to cat code shirt. I'm sure they park somewhere. That's a good question. Let me get back to you. I'm here today, so I'll ask you that stuff. Because I've probably done 10 presentations here since
Right. And you're not going to get the full explanation extent out of it, but I don't know how slides are, briefings, there's some takeaways regardless of
and
the.
each briefing is different depending on where my ADHD brain is at. Right? So who knows?
And then if you got the in-person briefing and you have something you can look back to too, if you're
Sure.
trying to talk to
Sure.
some.
Your job is caring for people, so you're going to live forever.
That's right. I'm gonna live forever. I am immortal. The immortal social worker. Yeah. I don't know if I would.
That's interesting. I wonder if they measure it when it's people whose job is to help others.
Right.
Do you get the same effect that we get when we
Yeah.
help others?
When you set good boundaries, you do. And I've experienced both. So, in the sense that if there's something in our field called compassion fatigue, and it's real, and it leads to a lot of good social workers and a lot of good counselors check out and burning out and being in the field or worse. And it all starts with good supervision, clinical supervision. Somebody that is in your chain in some way that is also a clinician who can read you and can say you need time away, you need to just sit back. Some of the things we look for are if I'm too attached to the outcome, if I feel personally responsible for something's outcome, it's the boundaries are strict. If I feel like I'm unable to set time, put the phone down, have time to refill my tank. Right? If I'm not able to do that, I catch myself, and it's convenient. So I've been on both sides, So, but I've been doing this long enough to know to check myself that I compassion starts to. But yeah, but when you've got good boundaries and you're helping, for me, this is my why. My why is knowing that I'm helping to help folks here defend our freedoms. So that gets me. That'll do. Anything else? Did you find the, after we talked about the stress, what stress is and what genetic factors and all that, and we got into the, no kidding, this is what you can do. Did you find some of those that you could probably pull out? Or did you think they were, for the most part, applicable, like every day? It's practicing it, it's not.
I don't think pull it out because what works for me may not work for John. And if I say pull these two things out, it might be one thing you're left in.
Yeah. So these things, different things already. So,
We want to do it less than an hour.
Right.
yeah, I like I liked the engagement, so I like the smaller groups like this to get feedback. I think the larger the group, the more you use in some ways.
It is unfortunate that we have such a small, say, not a people benefit from that point of view.
Yeah, she does, and she's an amazing communicator. She communicates so well. So I love watching TikToks. I'm the best communicators, the most knowledgeable in the field, or between 10 and 15 slice. A lot of knowledge. So,
Speaking of stress, I gotta go.
Yeah,
Sit with
yeah.
Colonel Philcorn.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, pick up any one of those. Use it. Mindfulness.
One,
Yeah.
2, 3,
4.
1,
3 to 4 is awesome.
Breathe in, hold. Not
You
hold
guys-
for 4 though, right?
Yeah, no. Breathe in. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
What's that?
Hold for a second and then. Yeah, even then, there wasn't that much of it. Like, to me, do I really care what part of my brain's doing what? Probably not, but it might be the piece that somebody else, who is a science anatomy geek that draws them to, ooh, I'm going to listen. So
I love talking about the brain. So if I'm going to take any part out, it's not going to be
It's not
that.
gonna be the
I
brain.
love the brain. The brain is amazing. So, but no, that's cool. But my big thing is just if they could just folks can get like a nugget. You think this would be a good Women Day
This
presentation?
is definitely a good thing.
Okay. Because that's what my hope was, to bring this for June with a larger group. So you guys can sit through it again and be like, hey.
Then I won't have to know where it is on the
Yeah.
SharePoint.
I'll get an answer for you on that.
We should. If we don't have one, we should have one.
Yeah.
Even if it's just your own link
Folder
from
or
the group.
something.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'll talk to the server.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Judge Medea for the exercise track, Echo Charlie 404, suspect action taken, ID out.
Did it work all right? Yeah, it worked perfect. Are you guys gonna eventually get a clicker, you think, or like?
Yeah, no, it's that laptop in there is having some USB problems.
Okay.
So we have the clicker, it's just that it can't connect.
It's not connecting. Got it. Thanks again for using your ID on that.